And Lord, as we sit down to learn, Lord, I pray that our hearts and minds would be open to the wisdom that our teacher Emmanuel has to show to us, Lord. I pray that we will not be distracted, Lord. Pray that you draw each one of us closer to you, Lord, every day, Lord, and that we would continue to seek you. Pray this in your name. Amen.
Wow, look at that. It's like I know how to make the test format, so. Huh? You just copy from this one, will do, huh?
Yeah, I composed a few of my own.
Compose your few own. That's very good.
Some of those.
Good. Okay.
Mine are harder.
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought. I told you.
So, do you hear, guys? Don't blame me if you feel the text, okay? So.
I already told everyone that Noah was making the test, so it's going to be a little bit harder.
Who's everyone?
So don't blame me.
Doing it?
Well, they already we already met about it.
Yeah. Okay, let's move forward. Last time we talked about chapter 8, I believe, right?
I think we were
No,
in
we're all
10.
in chapter 10.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Halfway through it.
We did
One, seriously?
part of it.
So 1/3 of it. Oh, Cromwell is coming. Okay, so let's do a review then. So today we're gonna start with Esther, and Kayla, maybe you want to do a review for us. You feel free. Peachy, you don't want to.
I'm sorry, it's not hard to hear.
Yeah, it's hard because your internet is not consistent, so we hard to hear you actually. So, am I right, Esther?
It's a little bit
The
choppy.
lady with a bone. Sorry, that's a good one. Cheer you up. So let's start it. Chapter 10 review.
Far east of Europe.
You read the first part, okay? So
But- Oh wait, we're reading or doing review?
review, am I right?
We've only gone halfway through the chapter.
We're at
Halfway. Oh
Close
man.
doors and-
Okay, then do the halfway then. So.
we're doing the review.
Okay,
of last
sorry.
week. So
Mhm.
while the 30 Years' War was going on,
Mhm.
the shoguns of Japan were watching
Mhm.
Francis Xavier. I don't know how to say his name.
Huh? Mhm.
Oh no, sorry. The shoguns of Japan watched the war, but Francis Xavier worried that his gods would
Close your book,
despise
okay? Yeah,
him.
kindly review with your notes book.
What?
Yeah, go ahead. You're doing very good. Yeah. Francis Xavier, am I right? So,
Xavier,
okay,
yeah.
okay. Okay.
He was worried that his gods would despise the natives,
Mm.
and it caused a lot of others, which him being worried about caused a lot of others to become Christians.
Mm.
And
What is the main feature for Francis Xavier in this slide? What kind of missionary he is, rather?
Jesuits, something like that.
Okay. That's good history background to know, because Jesus sent a lot of people around that time and after to the Far Eastern. Okay, so
Was it just Elijah and I that watched Silence, or were you guys there?
We watched it, but I
That's what those guys were. They were Jesuits. That didn't seem exactly.
What?
We watched a movie called
A Solemn. Okay.
Well, it's not a good movie, but
It's not a good movie. Okay.
we did see it
Yeah.
because it was.
There's a lot of good Jesuits. You can't see
I
it's
think
all
my dad
bad.
has talked
yeah.
about it in some of our meetings as well.
Great. Okay. So, yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
William Adams,
Williams Adam is
Protestant.
Hey, got you as well. Okay, so I still cannot do that. William Adams.
And he hated Catholicism.
Mhm. Catholicism, yeah.
Catholicism.
Because the 30 Years' War in the Europe nations, all around those nations, am I fighting between two faiths?
Yeah.
And Williams Adams are from which nation again?
Sure.
The Dutch, am I right? So,
Dutch.
yeah. So, okay, move on then.
he was president, and he wanted Ieyasu. He warned Ieyasu of the Catholics, saying that they would attack them.
Ieyasu.
Ieyasu.
Yeah.
And he banned Christians
Mm.
from
His land, right?
his land.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
Then what they believe? What the major faith they have? They feel threatened about. Query.
What they were threatened about?
Uh-huh.
Was it the Catholic?
Ancestral worship, right? So they have also Buddhism.
Oh, they.
Yeah. Then with this Dutch guy, he introduced called Protestantism. Protestantism, am I right? Protestantism.
Protestant.
Protestantism. Yeah. So that's why they rejected Catholics, am I right? So. Okay. Just want you to know the culture or the religious, for sure, the history backdrop why those things, those policy came to be. Am I right? Go ahead. Yeah.
so there were a lot of Christians in Ieyasu's land, and he continued to make more and more restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
And once Ieyasu died, his son made even more harsh rules against Christianity.
What is his son's name?
Adios.
No, what is his son's name?
I guess he's a Hidetada.
Yeah,
That's his son.
Huh?
But
Oh, I was looking at Haritada's son.
Hanitada's song.
Ieyasu's grandson is Aimitsu.
Oh, that's grandson. Sorry, you got me messed it up as well. So that's a lot of people there.
yep.
Okay.
But and then Ieyasu,
Mm-hmm.
Haratara's son, they could just continue to make more strict rules, but Christianity continued to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And then more and more laws that got worse, and then Buddhism grew.
What kind of Buddhism we call here? There's different Buddhisms, right? So like Catholic, Protestantism, a different kind of Christianity, so a different kind of Buddhism. What kind of Buddhism we talking about here?
They were talking about Zen.
Zen. Have you heard of Zen? That Zen is a word everywhere, right? So, Zen. Okay. Okay,
And,
go ahead.
Yeah, that continued to grow, and it's very strong,
Mm-hmm.
and it flourished.
Mm.
But that's pretty much all I have.
There's a rebellion, right, going on, right? So, what is that rebellion called? Because of faith. Mm-hmm. Called Shimabara, am I? Shimabara, yeah. That's an island near Nagasaki. Nagasaki is South City, a port city. Now, what kind of parks the Zen people do? I mean, Japanese developed. What are it called?
Are you talking about like what kind of things they like
Mhm,
did?
mhm.
I remember they had like the tree called a bonsai.
Yeah,
They grew
bonsai.
bonsai trees.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know the kind of vinegar called the balsamic vinegar, which John
Yeah.
really like it?
Balsamic?
Yeah, balsamic vinegar. Where do you think it came from?
I don't know. The
Good
bonsai?
question. Yeah.
Really?
Bonsai. Yeah. Rice wine. Where do you think sake? Where it came from? So Japanese have invented a lot of good, interesting meals. So have you guys go to the restaurant, eat the kind of seaweed rolls? You know what it called?
You're talking about sushi?
Sushi. Gusaki. Yeah.
Do you like sushi?
Oh yeah.
We get pretty good sushi from Safeway.
Oh,
it's really
that's
good.
nothing.
No, it's
Got
good.
Handmade, man.
Ooh. Wait, you can make some sushi?
There's sushi actually.
It's
Yeah? You got like sushi?
Mm-hmm.
Smelly, it's fishy.
I like the California rolls. I know it's kind of.
Yeah? Have you cut a raw meat deep in this green thing, make you all... Yeah, just give you a shot. Did he do that? Eating raw fish, yeah? Have you tried raw fish, yeah?
We had one with salmon and tuna. We've had some.
Yeah, raw fish deep in this thing.
I really
make
like
you all
the California
teary.
rolls.
Yeah,
Those are
I know.
fake.
No, they're not.
yeah.
Those aren't sushi.
Telling you, I watching the sushi, the cooking sushi. Look at this whole flat it's Japanese food, am I right? It's just big like this, you know, everything. You can sit in there, just drink your sake and see them cooking food.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
They will boom, 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 through everything around.
You crazy stuff with
Stretch through the
fire.
eggs, you know, on the
I bet that
pew,
feels really
pew,
good.
pew, catch it.
Keep the book in the middle so
Cut
you
it.
can go through from it.
It's hard. They really do it.
Yeah, those are cool places.
Yeah, you need to watch it. Very good culture. That's one thing. Very expensive. You want to eat. Not expensive is go to eat their ramen noodle.
What about some wagyu?
I don't know what that is, but it
Really?
sounds good. No, what is
It's like a white Japanese cow that size, like really
really?
expensive.
Oh yeah,
Wagyu.
yeah. That's expensive, man. That's the most expensive beef in the world.
Wagyu.
Yeah, $500 little piece.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I'm still not joking.
Is it good?
I don't know. I never eat it. Just
That sounds weird.
when you
No.
have
Why would
when,
you call it- what is Wagyu?
when you become rich, you just remember treating
it's
me.
what the cow is called.
Yeah,
Wagyu?
special meat, special feed cows. Has to be special fed.
What'd they feed them?
I don't know. Interesting question.
Probably tomatoes.
Rice.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, people want to eat something to feed them, am I right? So. Okay, now the next part is a very, very interesting story. We're gonna have somebody read for us. Kila, can you try if your voice is not consistent? We're going to then move on to the next person. But you can want you to encourage to read it for us. Read the first 3 paragraphs. The second section.
Actually, am in the car.
Oh.
My brother had a birthday party to get to, my connection with that, and I forgot to bring my book. All I brought was my essay.
Oh, okay. So don't worry about it. Okay, so that's good. So next time, don't forget your textbook. Okay. I'll give them a hard time about it. So yeah. Okay. We're going to start. Yeah. That's funny. You'll remember for the rest of your life about that story. That you forgot your textbook.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody scoring you for.
More this month. Is it still just?
Now, learning had to be a boring thing, you know. So
Oh, okay.
you can make something meaningful for you. That's what your learning is about. Where's your textbook? Where's your textbook? It's a borrow one. Start reading. Okay, you're gonna read first 5 paragraphs for us.
Okay.
Who?
Elijah.
Because if it's not $63, then I need to do anything to do this, then I need to know how much I'm reimbursed.
The foreign conquest of China, the rise of the Manchu. Just west of Japan, the huge country of China was also struggling with foreign ideas,
If you
foreign invaders. But these foreign invaders didn't come from the west. They came from China itself.
Of wave and we paper remain balanced. Okay, alright, I have that information written down, and so hopefully I won't have to ask you again. If it's different,
Sorry.
That's good.
okay.
I like you
So
write
if you
down.
want me to reimburse you like to the exact cent, then you'll need to annotate on the invoice and let me know how much. That's
So-
what I'll do.
Let me do a query a little bit. Anybody knows anything about China
Thank you very much.
Yeah?
Ming
besides
Dynasty.
Noah?
Uh-huh. Bye.
no one, no one read too much. So
I've read some stuff.
tell me about it. What do you
like,
know?
Like what? Like
I mean, you
What-
read some stuff.
like
what
what
you
about
read?
it? What about China?
Well, that's a good question to ask you. So to our
what
round
he's saying.
table.
What have you learned about China?
What you learn about China?
Let's see. I mean, one of the big things was like, wasn't that the place where they like? Well, it's one of the biggest. It's a really big continent. I think it has one of the
Large,
the
large
most population
nation.
of.
Yeah. Population, populated. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like there's just one
Largest
city. I think it's
population.
like
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Beijing or something, but it has like 3 million people in one
Yes,
city. It's crazy.
yes, yes. Three main cities: Beijing, Peking, called Tianjin, and Shanghai. Okay, they are all very big city like New York. So yeah, New York is big city. So what else? You know what the other day Kayla learned about China? She knows the longest river. Well, let's tell us what about the longest river. What's the name? Zhejiang.
She's hopping in and out.
Okay. Anyway,
Um,
know anything else?
the longest river.
Don't worry about that. You don't know, that's fine. So. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, too much details. There's so many things.
Yeah,
you
I
gotta
know like about
The
some of the
nation,
food they do
anything.
there.
Yeah.
It's, but yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's okay. We're recording. Am I right? So, recording. Unless we don't do it. Recording everything. Okay, go ahead.
All right. For centuries, China had been ruled by a family of emperors called the Ming Dynasty.
Ming Dynasty.
Ming.
Ming. Let me show you the Chinese character for it. It's like this and this. Okay, this is not good writing, but it got the character. Now this first part is actually means a song. And the second part it means a moon. So Ming, the sun and moon together means what? Combine the character together means what? Means light or brightness, right? So, yeah, something shiny, something give you light. So, Ming. Go ahead.
The Ming family came from the south of China, where the people were known as Han Chinese.
Han Chinese. Now that's interesting to know. We're talking about different racial composition here in China. Han is a major race in China. Over 90% are made Han people. I am a Han. Okay, so.
The Ming emperors and the people they ruled were both Han Chinese. They spoke the same language, ate the same foods, wrote in the same alphabet, and wore the same clothes.
That's terribly wrong. We don't have alphabet. So we don't have alphabet. So that's wrong history.
What did you have?
We have characters as told you. We don't have alphabet is A, B, C, D, and I haven't have that.
Well, there's all sorts of different alphabets.
There's no alphabet in China whatsoever. No, there's different. That's good information to have. Is there's a different way of creating the writing with the language. Okay, so like in Babylonian, Babylonian. Language Babylonian where the language came from, it came from accounting. If you know accounting, the history of accounting started with Babylonians. They usually do accounting. They had to go to the Euphrates River or Tigris River. They will transact grain or other goods downstream, upstream. Then people, in the long run, each time they had to do transactions, they don't know how much they transacted, right? So eventually they work out a credit system. Is okay, they're going to remember. You see, the person who they use the slave those times, they don't necessarily the master go with those things. So in order for the goods on the ship not lost or cheated away, what have you, they're going to bring a clay, inscribe on the clay, let it dry, and the owner of the ship will then have the slave or the manager of the shipment to give to the next person for recipient. So they will set on the clay, they work out a number system, right? So number system, okay, there is 5 loaves of fish there, right? five baskets of fish. There is something simple in the container, so they can do counting. That's when counting started. So also the first way of writing is inscribed thing dried on the clay. Are you guys hearing? Okay, interesting. So that's the original way of starting and counting as well as writing. These two histories. And Chinese almost like the same thing. We use different ways to do the number, and we use certain people still doing it, you know. So like in those, you see the movies, people in the prison, what they do, they mark certain days, they write 7 days in a row in order to keep calendar going. They don't miss the days. Who knows how many times or long. I mean, if you live in a very secluded place, nobody give you any information. They will do that, right? And mark the day, how many days. Every day they have to do it, right? Miss it, we have to recount it, you know. So that's called accounting. So it's a very raw information, but people begin to create a system of remember recording things. Now you know the history. History all come from not necessarily oral history. The major body history information is from archaeology, maybe some oral history. Today we have myths, fiction, those things. But the major part, real history, has to do with writing. So you have to have the writing system. So the writing experience with language being composed, used, is a major way why history came to be. We have those records. We trust those records. Even those records is not necessarily true or biased. For example, the records, there's a war happened. Now, Egyptian king will say, I conquered this land, I brought, lose this land. On the other side is a story, the same war going to record. We conquered, we slew how many Egyptians? They might say, oh, writing down. Now, where is that information kept? In those days, they don't have paper, even they have a silk or other means, papyrus, other material used for keep the recording. But the people know that those things quickly deteriorate and then decayed. It can't really remain. So people also inscribe the things on stones, on clays, on metals, so that things, they know the material can last for a long time, right? So you can see that's a major why people do archaeology. Archaeologists will find those pieces, especially pieces with information like that nature. So when talking about this wars, actually it's not a strange story. It's continue to happen with people on different side of the world, different side of culture. They might record the same events, but with different accounts, with their biases. So in a sense, we can borrow from that principle to look at today's history. For example, this history book, they try to be unbiased as they can, but what have you? Is that recording going to be the same and others? Obviously, this is one of those materials, right? So from a compiled, presented, and viewed from a certain point of view. Now, when you learn Japanese, Chinese, those people or other peoples, you can see those biases, those conflict happening between nations, between different political factions, in this case, between different races in China. Now, how about today? We're still doing those things, right? Fighting a little bit of cultural war. Now, why is it important to remember those things? It's a happy picture, but that's part of you want to grasp history, to enjoy the information and master the information, and master per se, but have a set of method or viewpoint set. I'm not going to just trust all information. I'm going to ask God, ask God's wisdom, God's perception to me, require discretion and require a certain method. You got to to say, well, there's two different accounts about these movements. How can I verify it's true or not? You know, there is a method to do those things. You can't just trust all the information that present to you. Said, feel find the truth because I dig it up from the ground. You had to apply some method, right? Even it is Asian, even it's inspired by people, but that person might have a certain point of view, certain standing in life, or certain condition in life. His views don't necessarily has to be filtered, has to be diagnosed, has to be interpreted in a sense. So, in this way, look this chapter is very important to see certain bias as take hold of this Han dynasty. And they have a culture clash, more than war clash, there's a culture clash with this new rising race, which later conquered all China. And the minority ruled the Chinese for hundreds of years before Chinese modern revolution came from. So we have a huge bearing on Chinese feet, Chinese culture in the past few centuries. Okay, so like in the time of American founding almost, the same parallel, there is a certain thing happen. So I'll just give you some backdrop to say, well, how we do. When I talk Chinese, I really stress it up because I think I'm Chinese. But you got to learn to learn history, to learn to a way to say, okay, yes, I'm part of it, but I need to learn to withdraw from a certain. I don't know. No, you have anything comments on this? My point is to stand out, to look into it, to learn real history, and especially God's work through different time frames, through different culture or human races. So back to the reading. Go ahead. Yes.
But in the northern part of China, in the area called Manchuria,
Manchuria, that's modern. There's a nation called Mongol. Mongol, as major parties. Mongol is used to be Manchuria. So Mongolia. Go ahead.
a warlike group of people had come to hate the Ming Dynasty. The leader of these Manchu people complained that Han Chinese soldiers came to Manchuria, stole food, drove farmers from their land. He grew so angry that he took a battle oath called 7 Hatreds for the Ming Dynasty and set out to attack the borders of the Ming Empire.
Now, those kind of wars between the borders is ongoing for thousands of years. Unfortunately, it heated up in this time for that particular group of people. Okay, so they actually loot each other. The truth of the matter is, outsiders continue coming in to loot the farmers, basically mean their body for Chinese residents. So this is a wrong presentation, give you new students a wrong perspective. Because the outside in the north, they are nomadic people, they are horse people, they're good at wars. You look at the recent Disney movie called Mulan, right? That's exactly this kind of region, those kind of wars we're talking about. Better picture. Because the horse people, when they don't have their good years, run out of resources, don't have food, what they do? They're gonna have to survive, Imagine the north is cold, and all year have grasses, the horse gonna get hungry. So if they're gonna facing some terrible fate, so what do? They actually continue to invade the south because the south is more agriculture kind of culture. So that's why the Great Wall was built, to stop the invasion of the northern people. So I hope it give you a better picture of why this war started. So for sure, the Southerners continue to go out to try to make trouble for the North as well. So in this case, it's a small faction of many races, many tribes there. Certain things happened, were unfortunate. to this person. So, go ahead.
The Ming Empire braced itself for the foreign invasion of the Manchu, but another threat was rising within China itself. For years, Ming China had been growing poorer and hungrier. The emperors had spent a tremendous amount of money fighting off Hideyoshi of Japan. And while they were spending money, China was growing. And there were now 160 million people in China, and there was not enough farmland to grow enough food for them all. The weather had grown colder. Unexpected frost killed orange trees and young crops. Grain was scarce and expensive.
Excuse me.
Soon the army ran out of money to pay or feed for its troops. Soldiers began to desert. They joined up with bands of hungry peasants, roamed through China, robbing and destroying cities. Meanwhile, the Manchu launched attacks on cities in the north of China. The Han Chinese complained, "We are surrounded by battle, unsafe in our own homes. The emperor does not do anything to help us." One Chinese government official, a postman named Li Chuzheng,
That's very interesting how they spell those things. Li Zicheng, even spelled wrong, so. Sorry. There's no zu, you there. It should be I. Li Zicheng. He was not really a serious official. He was just like a common soldier, you know what I mean? A postman. So the reason is very different to be official or just hiring in the government. You understand my point? So the official were corrupt these days, so they are the reason that caused all these troubles. Rebel. Go ahead.
decided to set up his own government in place of the Ming. He gathered hungry and discontented men around him and marched his army toward the capital city of Peking.
Peking. That's against old translation. So today we call it Beijing, right? So even this is wrong. Peking should be P-E-I-K-I-G. That's old translation. Okay, so not P-E. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
He was ready to fight for the throne, but when he reached Peking, no soldiers appeared on the city's walls. Li Chuzheng's army approached cautiously. They pushed open the city gates. No Ming army stood ready to fight. The Ming soldiers, hungry and ragged, had been struck by plague. They were dead or had fled the city.
That's terribly wrong. Maybe have some plague, but basically the people just give up on the dynasty, the rulers. Okay, they literally give it up because the ruler, they'll be the mismanage the capital. So he killed himself. The emperor killed himself, hung himself. So go ahead.
Li marched toward the place in triumph. As he approached, the last Ming emperor hung himself in his
very
royal
good.
chambers.
That's not true. He hung himself on the tree. The tree still exists.
The Ming dynasty had ended.
It's a very famous detail in transit stories. So let's next person read it. Noah, can you read it for us? You can pick it up.
That wasn't me.
Okay.
So the Ming Dynasty had ended,
Mm-hmm.
but Li Zicheng would not be the new emperor of China. Down in the south of China, the remains of the Ming family and army gathered together, hoping to take the throne back. One of the Ming generals sent a message to the Manchu, who were still rampaging through the north of China. "We were once enemies," the general wrote, "but now we can join together to defeat this rebel peasant and his army." That was a mistake. The Manchu were happy to help out. They swept down from the north and drove Li Shuqing out of Beijing. And then, instead of putting the Ming back on the throne, they claimed the throne of China and began a new ruling dynasty of their own, a Manchu dynasty. Is there any particular, I don't want to inject too much, but is there any particular history as to why the surviving Ming family decided to make so goofy a decision? Because
There's
like,
many
asking
reasons.
foreigners to...
Yeah, the main reason is that was definitely a terrible decision, which is not one dynasty or one general made through the history. But in this very particular time, this Manchu is not necessarily that powerful in their eyes. Still surrounded by other. Now this is not, Manchu is not Mongolia. Not Genghis Khan. It's not a race actually. There's many races in those regions, so they have scores like 20, 30. So each one can survive for a while. They continue battle through generations and thousands of years of battle. One rise another, conquer another. More like happened in Persia. Those kind of things. So in this particular case, this tribe began to overtake. So, but they still were small in its force. So nobody envisioned they can actually control the whole land. Nobody expected that. More importantly, officially, they are subject to China. Like in the former chapter, we talking about the Ieyasu tried to invade China, who send the Paris ship all the time, looted the people. So literally they have to retreat. Nobody can live on the seaside anymore because they continue being looted. Continue coming the land, looting people. So this Ming dynasty is facing a lot of external threats and internal strifes. People dying, hunger, famine, terrible times. So, but in this particular time, the Manchu is still a subject. It's still a general in his army, basically, like a subject, right? So making sense to you? So what have you? Yes, they have ambition, but they're desperate. Now, the Li Zicheng, this guy was rebelled. His idea is to get all the rich people killed. The former, he wanted to spare all the land. So why is successful? Because the ownership of land is a big problem in China. So the ownership of land. So in this nation, you just think about if the deeds, the contract, the government does not enforce the honor of those things, everybody said, you can get your own land, or we need to have peace, simple land. And that is why also communism later days become successful. It's not because of merely ideology. Communism in China, in Russia, is because they said, let's wipe away the former owners, former rich people, let's distribute everything evenly between the people. That's why poor people, oppressed people especially, said, yeah, we want that, so we don't want to work for others. That right now uprising as well. In this nation, there's a hidden uprising, People said, why the rich people are getting more rich, the poor people getting more poor? The middle class disappearing. We use terms today, sociology, socialism, capitalism to define those things. But those struggles, those contentions, rich, powerful, if they don't act in kindly, righteously, justly, the exploit people, oppress people, which is a common phenomenon across history in every nation. So that's why the Great Depression, for example. So you can see that struggle. That's why Germany have a Hitler. People like Hitler. They lead them. Why? Because the rich nations, because they lost the war, they said, "You guys own our debt. You're not never going to get out of it. You just basically slave to us as a nation." This is a terrible history, but people, so those who make decisions, don't really always wise or learn to really fundamentally. That's the tragedy of humankind. Everybody thinks is smart, they got the answer, but eventually they almost continue wrong. This cycle for run themselves into different mess. So, and the mess is not ending up on the notes, negotiation, treaty, always end up in bloodshed. So wars, or uprising, class cleaning, or racial cleaning. So have you heard called ethnic cleansing? It's good terms today we named. What does ethnic cleansing means? Anybody knows ethnic cleansing means? It's crimes these days. Ethnic cleansing is like in this nation, whether the black people said, "I don't want the white people to exist in this nation anymore. Let's kill them." Or white people said, "We don't want the black people to exist anymore. We just let them die, kill them." That's a key. What it's about. Why the super, that's why the dangerous. So that happened, this kind of a struggle, foolish tensions, happened more than in this nation, happened in many history. Have you heard of the tragic happened in Rwanda in recent history? Have you read or heard the story called the Rwanda Hotel? Well, Rwanda Hotel, there's a hero basically in a terrible time, ethnic cleansing, two races try to kill each other. Used to be neighborly for generations. They begin to kill each other. Millions of people died on the streets. That's modern day history. So, and this Rwanda guy said at a hotel, he tried to use UN other especially secure the people, refugee people, later on become much a hero through that very inhumane and cruel history, So there are many church people killed, literally children, women killed in the churches, So terrible time because of famine, because land, again, those kind of things. So we just heard a story. He was persecuted. The man maybe have a problem, but people, the Rwanda, the leaders today, that's 3 years ago, said we don't like this person making trouble for us. He was called into the persecuted him. Those are living people, living injustice. I'm not saying that he may do anything wrong or right, but in general, a person do those things or did something. There's a noble heart. There's something can be honored, can be ravished. You don't persecute the person represent the reputation of your nation, So you don't persecute a person to the injustice, or maybe not too much allowances. At least give a certain allowances. Let's pardon him. Let's honor his good deeds in a time, trouble our nation totally run down. So we keep the people together. You see, I'm just saying, how you learn history, this is how you learn history. Now, as a wise ruler, what you do, you make a special allowance for this person, not to persecute him, even he becomes the very critical of your leadership, your policies. Why you need it? This is important for us to understand. It's not because you're happy with what is, or maybe you're totally in the wrong. What you do is right, he's totally in the wrong. But you give them a gracious allowance for people to criticize you. Also, because this person did a lot of good things to people, to the nation. Honor that as set example for the general people, amen, for all the people. So that is said, people who do good in life, in our nation, to do noble things. See, worth honor. Even they make mistakes, we're going to give some forgiveness to them as a society, as a culture. Amen. Hallelujah. Now this applied something I've been talking to you two young gentlemen, is you can see that kind of heart in the Bible. The Bible have a city refuge. Why we do city refuge? I mean, people literally the justice system said, you're a criminal, you're going to have to pay your, you pay your due, But still, God sent in His law, said the city refuges. And the priest will be the head of that refuge. They not apply justice there. They apply mercy. So they go to that city refuge, the Gothers and refuge. Why is such an important thing? That is tradition is carried on even in Arab nation these days, in Muslim world. Like somebody commit a crime, he asks you for mercy. In the Muslim world said, well, we have the duty, it's their tradition, to honor somebody come you for mercy. So even they are your enemies. I mean, you in the war setting, in other setting, you kill them, but he come to you for mercy. You more than leave him home, you give him a shelter, you give him a refuge. Isn't that amazing? Well, unfortunately, that kind of things, why it's happened? I'm not saying it's a good practice or good practice will never have a war, right? We don't have to fight each other, eliminate each other. But learn history in this kind of settings, and you can learn more and more when human nature, or human wisdom is running in the bad course, what have you, how much ramification goes on. When human nature is good, human wisdom is good, certain setup is merciful or good, how much good it can do. Amen. I'm just trying to tell you a little bit of how to learn history a little bit. So, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Sorry.
Let's see. Now China was ruled by a people who were not Han Chinese. The peasant emperor had been defeated, but a foreign emperor sat on China's throne.
And they were worldwide rulers. They not begin to wisely shift their policy to not persecute the Han. They emerged, adopt the Han's culture, actually. Eventually there was Kangxi, the third emperor in this dynasty. He actually had a Jewisist as his teacher when he grew up. Teach him what is the stars in the
He had a what for his
Astronomy?
a teacher, like Jesuit missionary.
Oh, Jesuit.
Jesuit missionary became his teacher. So he was converted to Christianity as a young emperor. He believed in Jesus. He wrote a poem about his crucifixion. But he never officially converted. But in his heart, he was considering himself Christian. Can you believe that? So it's in Ming Dynasty, there is a lot of upper class actually become Christians, openly Christians. Interesting story there. So.
The Manchu thought of themselves as superior to the Han Chinese. They called themselves the Queen, a word which means pure.
Qing means qing. Yeah.
They called themselves the Qing, a word that means pure. They refused to live in the same neighborhoods as their Han Chinese subjects. Manchu and Han Chinese boys and girls didn't play together, and they weren't allowed to marry each other when they grew up. As a sign of their control over the Han Chinese, the Manchu forced their subjects to cut their hair in the Manchu style. Han Chinese...
That means you cannot keep your bones anymore this time, okay? Yeah.
What did the Manchu hairstyle look like then?
It's actually, the forehead is shaved.
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's a picture. I don't see a picture there. Let me see. Yes, actually, let me show you. That's for a long time, that is what people think people in China look like. So, yeah, exactly. Look at they have a long
That's
this. Yeah, it's like yours.
Yeah,
You can grow in
fortunately
that.
not.
Then they had to shave the forehead. David
Yeah, you
Dawson.
should do that.
Yeah, no, you have that
Yeah.
yourself.
If you look at him just right in front of you, he looks bollocks until he goes like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all about
Keep
perspective with
keep
those
a
guys.
bum, so you will look like a mean person, not a chin person.
Yeah. Let's see. Han Chinese men believed that hair was a gift from family ancestors, so they grew their hair very long. But Manchu men shaved the fronts of their heads and braided the hair in the back into a long. I don't know how to say that.
What? Where's that?
Pigtail?
Q-U-U-U-U.
I have no idea. That's the English thing. Yeah.
Or
Say-
pigtail.
Or pigtail.
Q.
A long
The pigtail. Yeah.
The Han Chinese thought that shaving your forehead was a barbaric, uncivilized practice showing disrespect for ancestors. When the Manchu ordered them to start wearing pigtails, the Chinese revolted. It's crazy how that kind of culture clash works like that.
Yeah.
They gathered to oppose their Manchu overlords, shouting, "Keep your hair, even if you lose your head."
Yeah. They literally have a post in front of the city. Anybody we're not with the hairstyle they talking about, they're gonna behead you on the spot.
Yikes.
That's literally a lot of people became beheaded. That's real. I'm not talking about jokes. So they will send armies one by one in the streets to kill everybody that they was found a hairstyle. Yeah. Later days, one of the revolt against this Qing dynasty is keep your hair long. We're not gonna have that hairstyle. So they cut the pigtails. So cut pigtails is a big act for daring the ruler in the later days, become a symbol of revolutionary. So that's why they mention here of this. Just so you know. Yeah.
Hold on just a second.
Yeah, you would think human history is a civilized like today. We think that's very good. 100 years ago, many nations are colonized. Slave trading still in some quarters exists. Do you understand my point? You know, so there are. That's the. But the huge influence impact over this is actually American. That's why Americans are being light hope for many nations, because they have democracy, they have respect human rights, they respect the voice of the people. You know, so dictators or ban fractions of societies, not necessarily wrong or walk, but well, there's a lot of good things that American impact over the nations, you know, so, and bring a lot of good changes, you know, so to different culture, different nations, you know, so now this query, do you think many nations have a long history than American? How long American existed? Tell me. Which year American came to be, United States came to be?
1776.
76, am I right? So that how many years ago? How many centuries ago?
It's like
2 or 3?
yeah,
Yeah,
about 3 years.
300 years something. Yeah. I think that's 350 maybe. So it's not
250.
200, less than 4 centuries at least, am I right? So now we're talking about here is about 3 centuries ago, before American even came to be. So another thing, how many nations we have in European nations? We just talk about European nations, am I right? Chinese, Japan, Egypt, all kinds of nations. You would think those nations must have a way to govern themselves and people agree with it, right? So, not true. So, here's the question. So, what's the longest constitution in the whole world? Constitution is most important than we how you govern a nation, right? If we don't have a constitution, what have you? You know, there's no law, there's no governing principles. You would think humankind already work out those things through the history, am I? We have 4 or 5 centuries, thousands, 10 times the history before us to work through the fundamental ways how to organize yourself as a people. The truth of the matter is most of the nations' constitution is written, put into force, if they are already put into force, less than 100 years ago. and American have the longest constitution in history. Is that amazing? Is that amazing? French, Italian, German, the other law system that came to be play a longer history role is English common law. I'm sorry, but no, that's how you learn history. So, learn history, branch out more than the information, and know all the people, what it really impact a culture, what it impact the people, how they live together, organize together. That part of the how to approach history more than this kind of just things happen, right? Things happen under the surface, beyond the events, there are things matters, right? So, yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Let's finish this portion.
The Manchu were ruthless. They crushed the rebellions, executed the ringleaders, and forced their subjects to shave. The first Manchu emperor treated the Han Chinese like slaves. He put his Manchu countrymen into positions of authority and made the Han Chinese officials serve them. But the second Manchu emperor,
Kangxi.
Kangxi,
That's the guy. That's what I'm talking about.
changed all that.
His name, yeah.
Kangxi inherited the throne when he was only 7.
Yeah.
His regents had served the first Manchu emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first emperor, they looked down on the Han Chinese and treated them like servants and slaves.
Mm-hmm.
But even as a child, Kangxi realized that the Manchus were outnumbered by the Han Chinese, and that they would not be able to keep control of this huge empire if they treated their subjects with scorn. And though Kangxi was loyal to his Manchu countrymen, he also loved the country of China. At the age of 13, Kangxi took power for himself. He fired the regents and set about gaining the support of the Han Chinese.
That's not true. He's not fired. Yeah, maybe so.
He announced that all Chinese subjects, whether Manchu or Han Chinese, could gain favor and promotion at his court. He told the Han Chinese, "We have not conquered you, we have freed you. We no longer will have, we will no longer have, no longer will you have to worry about Ming soldiers stealing your crops, or the Ming emperors demanding high taxes." And so that the Han Chinese would feel liberated instead of enslaved, he reduced taxes. Soon, the Han Chinese peasants were paying less taxes than ever before. Kangxi's strategies worked. Hatred for the Manchu rulers began to diminish as the people of China grew richer. Under Kangxi, China became stronger and bigger, and his army conquered other nations nearby and added them to the Manchu Empire. For 50 years, this foreign invader ruled over his adopted country and made it one of the largest and wealthiest nations in the world.
So one man changed the whole thing in the right place, right time, right? So, and not one man, but with our help for sure. But he's a ruler. He has to adopt certain ways. Now in China, there are few good kings through the generations, and this is one of the many good kings. Okay, we're good king. We're merciful. We're kind. They did a lot of good to Chinese people. So you earn my respect for this. So that is Far East history, East history. With that, we wrap it up. So is the history good for you guys? You like it? Yeah. So I'll branch it out a little bit for you to more enjoy, because I know Chinese a little bit. So we'll talk next time. Noah, can you give an update on things about the text? Have you sent it out yet?
I haven't sent it out. I thought you wanted me to.
You want? Yeah.
You to look at it first.
Yeah, send me to me so we can.
Okay.
Don't send to them, or they don't know the answer. We have to test them, so forget about that. Yeah. Already your essay is pretty good, but you can send your essay ahead of time to me. Okay. So yeah. So that being said, I want Elaine to pop in to tell us about her